Hi, so my name's Frank Williams and we're here on the tutorial.avi in the Czech Republic, and as you can see the river here is quite shallow and very clear with some nice weeding. And this is excellent habitat conditions for both trout and grayling, but it can be very difficult to fish this kind of water. And one of the most effective methods is a method that in recent years has been called French nymphing. And the idea behind it is we use very light nymphs on a very long leader and virtually no fly line, if at all, outside of the rod tip, and maybe just the leader down the rod tip and onto the spool. So I'll explain a little bit about the equipment. I'm using a 10-foot very light rod. This rod's 3 weight, and the leader I'm using, I'll explain a little bit about it. It has a very long butt section, 8 meters of quite low diameter copolymer. In this case the leader construction is Camofil, which is available from frenchnymphing.co.uk. After the 8-meter butt section I have a taper, hand-tied taper, again of Camofil, and this is about 1.5 meters long. And then at the end of this I have one of these very nice drop style indicators. This one was made by Jan Shaman in the Czech Republic, and they're one of the best indicators for this type of fly fishing. Then after the indicator I have about 1 meter of tippet material to my first fly, and then another 50 centimeters to my point fly, which is a very light fly with just a 2mm tungsten bead. And the material I'm using today for my tippet is JMC helium, which again is available from frenchnymphing.co.uk. So the idea of this style of fishing is because we've got no fly line outside the rod tip, our fly line won't be going over the fish and spooking them, and also because of the long rod we can hold all of the leader off the water as an angle, so the leader comes down on this angle and enters the water, and because of this the flies get a very natural drift, because the fly line is not being dragged around by the current and causing the flies to move unnatural. So it's very easy to get a nice clean dead drift, which is how the natural insects in the river come down towards the fish, so it makes it much more appetizing for the fish to take them. Okay, so you know how it is with fishing. I've just hooked my first fish, of course, while the cameraman was setting up, so we didn't get the take on film. I'll try and catch another one a little bit further up. So this is a beautiful little grayling, and he took the fly on the top dropper, which is a very light nymph. I'm just going to unhook him. He's on a barbless hook, so he comes out nice and easy, and we'll put him back into the river. And I'll explain a little bit about how we fish the method as I fish up through this deep pool. So it's very tempting, because we're using such light equipment, to put a lot of energy into the cast, and this can actually be detrimental for accuracy. So we need to make a light overhead cast upstream and hold it so that our indicator is just above the surface of the water, tracking downstream to keep the slack out of the leader. Another gentle cast upstream, and hopefully you can see my indicator there just above the surface as it comes down. And we work mostly upstream, working our way across, covering any likely lies. Nice gentle cast. The wind's just picked up a little bit, which is making the casting a bit more difficult. But these are very difficult conditions today with the river quite so clear. So I'm keeping low. You can see the wind's just putting some slack into my leader there. Try and keep your shadow off the water as much as possible. Keep under the vision of the fish. Just coming into a little deep pool now, so hopefully I'll pick up a fish. If I don't pick one up here, we'll move up to another spot because I'd really like to show you how it looks when the fish takes and how the indicator moves. And what I'm looking for is just an increase in tension between the fly line and the beads on the indicator will help me to see that. And the beads are red and green, the red and yellow, with the black one in the center. And one of the reasons why we use the different colors is so that depending on the light, one of the colored beads will contrast for us. And we should be able to, in varying light conditions, always see that drop style indicator. Now the flies I'm using are very, very light indeed because there's a lot of weed and the water's quite shallow. Oh, and there was a fish, but I missed the strike. I was talking to you and I didn't watch properly what was happening. So back to the flies again. The flies I'm using are very, very light because of the shallow water and the weed. The one on the point is just a little red tag with a 2mm tungsten bead on. And actually my dropper fly today is a very, very light spider pattern, just tied with some red wire and a partridge hackle. Very, very simple. Whereas actually the fly that the last fish took for me. And we've got some debris coming down the river now, so I'm just going to clear it off my leader. Just at the start of autumn here, so the leaves are falling off the trees. What we had to take then. Oh yes, we have a nice grayling. And he came out just where I thought, right in the head of this little, there's a deep pool in front of me just here. And he come right out of the head of the pool, because what he's doing is he sat at the front of the pool as the water comes over the shallow riffle and washes insects down. He's ready to sit just in the deeper part of the water to move up and ambush any insects that are washed downstream. So what I did is I cast up into the shallow water and allowed my flies to drift down right onto the prime spot. And perfectly enough, we caught a nice grayling. So I'm not going to play him too hard because I'd like to make sure that I get him to the net so you can see the quality of the fish here in the Czech Republic. They're absolutely beautiful. And if you'd like to come over and fish here in the Czech Republic, but you're unsure about where to fish, I could recommend that you book some time with Jan, who is one of the best guides I've ever met. and knows the area perfectly. So you should have a very, very good time if you come fishing here with him. And this is a very nice fish for this water. I'm going to move down into the slower water a little bit. And now he's in the net, we can have a big smile. He's a very beautiful fish, and he's 13 inches in length from the tip of his nose to his tail. So maybe 3/4 of a pound. I'm using barbless hooks, and I think the hook came out in the net. Let me just check. Yeah. And as you can see, beautiful huge fin on his back, which makes these fish a very, very strong fighter in the current, and also one of the most beautiful fish you're likely to catch fly fishing in the rivers. One of the difference between the fish here in the Czech Republic and in the UK is this deep red colour on the tail. Very, very similar to the tail fin. Now I've had him out the water long enough, and we've all had a nice look at him. So I'm going to put him back for the next angler who comes along to enjoy catching him.